What if I told you that copying titles from your niche is actually lowering your click-through rates? How can you test your titles before your video goes live? What if there are 8 things that you can add to your title that increase your click-through rate? And what if the difference between a 3% and a 21% click-through rate comes down to just changing one thing in your title? We will start off with by far the most common title mistake that I see. Most YouTubers copy their titles from channels in the same niche. The problem? Well, they're copying the title, not the reason the title worked. Smart YouTubers steal title formats from outside their niche. Here are 8 title formats that I love because they can be used in almost any niche and were ones that worked for small channels. The first one is the only way to, and then a popular desire. For example, the only way to become fluent in English. Exceptional video, this one. The next one is how X did crazy Y. For example, how one company secretly poisoned the planet. The third one is the new way of popular activity in 2025. For example, the new way of vlogging in 2025. Personally, I've noticed this title format to work really well, especially for educational videos. The next one is how to get X without Y. I really love this one. It's also this video, but I really love this title format because people are always looking to get something without doing certain effort. And this is a great example of it. How to get 1,000 subscribers without uploading. And I mean, just look at the outlier score on this one. The next one is, if you struggle with common problem, try Y. For example, if you struggle with focus, then try my productivity system, which was also an outlier for Alex Hormozy. The next one is, I tried X for Y days. Like this one, I quit sugar for 30 days. And this format has built-in retention. These titles work because viewers, they know that there is a definitive endpoint and transformation story coming. It's almost binge-worthy by design. Which brings us to I did accomplishment at age ... And here are X lessons for specific age group. Like this one, I made $5 million at 24. Here are 7 lessons for anyone in their 20s. But this one may be easier for you to implement, which is I did high volume of X and these are the best. For example, this, I tried 200 AI tools. These are the best. And this is more easy because of course it can be input based, not per se your results in something, but of course you can still read 200 books or 50 books. Now, if you want the full guide, including 1-page documents of everything, like I just shown and what I will show in the rest of the video, then comment the word PDF below. Which brings me to the 8 viral title elements. Because within each of these formats, we can add in elements that increase click-through rate. And with elements, I mean often just one word, sometimes a combination of words, like this one, authority modifiers. For example, CEO reveals, or doctor explains, or millionaire secret, where you basically borrow credibility from an established expertise. Someone who does this exceptionally well is Stephen Bartlett from The Diary of a CEO. He uses this in his titles all the time, as you can see. And he does this for a reason. If you currently don't have experts within your video, maybe try to include them so that you can also include them in your title. Which brings me to specific time frames, like 30 days, 24 hours, 7 minutes, where you create urgency and you set clear expectations what the viewer will get within this time frame. Like this great example from Dan Martell, where he says, and like many YouTubers nowadays, they use this format where you say, I got 59 seconds. Now this format where you say 59 seconds also really hard to pull off, because videos that are really short are difficult to get a lot of views on YouTube because you are competing with lots of high average duration videos. But hey, at the same time, you can also produce a lot of these within the same amount of time that a 10 or 20 minute video takes. And of course, don't feel limited to 59 seconds. This works for days, hours, minutes, not just seconds. Which brings us to numbers. Either exact numbers, like this, or multiple numbers to speak to more people, like so. And sometimes even rounded numbers, because keep in mind that sometimes these round numbers, like 500 instead of 487, 500 sometimes actually performs better. Take a look, for example, at my thumbnail change. The number 50 almost got double the click-through rate. The number 50 almost got double the click-through rate. I repeat myself. The number 30 was below a 4% click-through rate, while the number 50 in the thumbnail got me almost 7% click-through rate. By the way, I have many of these elements, like the review, quotes, logos, and others in my free thumbnail pack. So you can create this, this and this in minutes for free in Photopea, or of course in Photoshop. Which brings us to the next one, which is insider language. For example, using insider exposes this, which makes a viewer feel like they are getting something new, that they're getting that there is novelty, right? There's an insider that exposes stuff. And this is a great example of that, where it says Silicon Valley insider exposes cult-like AI companies, and within the thumbnail specifically targeting CEOs. Which brings us to contrast. For example, the word but. This signals a plot twist and keeps viewers guessing what is coming next. Like this title did. This invention made Disney millions, but then they lost it. So try to see if you can use the word but and create this contrast. Which brings us to emotional triggers, especially the word shocking, which promises an emotional payoff. Of course, people don't think like this, but when they see shocking, it often increases click-through rate, in my experience, like this video did, with the title Instagram CEO shocks with new algorithm. Which brings us to personal stakes. For example, I lost everything, or my biggest mistake, this nearly killed me or my business. Especially if you have a good comeback story like this title did. And then we have scarcity, especially fear of missing out indicators. In particular, this sentence, before it's too late. This triggers this FOMO, and this title did that exceptionally well. Learn how to actually study before it's too late. Again, full PDF if you comment below. Which brings me to the 9 power words. These are words that I've tested in my titles that has often increased my click-through rate. First, the word new, breaking, insane, fuck or unfuck or fucks, genius, killer, fast, and the other 2 are in my PDF. Again, comment below. Now you also want to caps lock these power words, because on the majority of my A/B test titles that had 1 or 2 words in uppercase in caps lock, those had higher click-through rates than titles without any words in caps lock. So the takeaway, maybe include at least 1 title within your A/B test that has at least 1 word within caps locks. Now before I share the principles behind the highest click-through rate titles, first create more title variants and test more title variants. For example, by sending a Kahoot quiz to friends or your email list, or post an Instagram story poll. Do the same on LinkedIn or even on Twitter. But most importantly, pre-upload your titles and test them on the YouTube community post. Go over here in your community tab and post this before you upload your next video. Simply create a text poll in your community tab, add your titles and wait at least 24 hours till the votes come in. This way you're more likely to start your video with your best title, which can be the difference between going viral or 500 views. Which brings me to the principles that you will find behind the highest click-through rate titles. First, the 1 emotion rule, with the core question: what single emotion will be the strongest desire to click? And is that emotion immediately feelable when I read this title? Now, why does this work? Because emotion is the fastest click trigger. I mean, just look at yourself. But before we move to a big one, also ask yourself, how can I create conflict within my title? Because the highest converting titles for me, for example, this one had conflict in them. It truly is a title cheat code. Even if the video or conversation or topic doesn't really have much conflict or no conflict at all, still you want to make or try to do this. Make a quite boring video, or like not in a conflict containing video, into one that has conflict. But if you don't want to do this, then ask yourself the following: what is my unique edge on this channel? What can it be? For example, if you look at William Brown, he has very boring, clean thumbnails where he drives all the attention usually to the title. You much more quickly to read the title when you see this kind of thumbnail. Now, to be fair, he also has a very good thumbnail, even though it's very clean. There's no text, no editing, right? Because he has, of course, a very expensive watch. He has a great view. Many people know that it's Dubai. It's expensive to live there and so on. But he mentioned this himself, and I thought it was very interesting, which is that you are much more likely to read the title if you have a non-edited thumbnail. So maybe try this out too. But this is where most people get it wrong, which is that numbers beat words every time. For example, how to lose weight gets a lower click-through rate, while lose 15 pounds in 13 days gets a higher click-through rate, because specific numbers create concrete expectations. Now, does this always apply? Well, I would say most of the time. And I want to mention this because I care about truth. The same applies for the following: negative emotional words outperform positive ones. For example, words like avoid, stop, never, quit, consistently, beat. the words amazing, best, perfect, happy. Perhaps because human brains are wired to pay attention to threats first. I don't want to get into the human nature stuff kind of thing. I don't know the exact reason. It may be that, maybe something else. All I know is that you often want to focus on negative emotions, negative words, and negativity, unfortunately. Which brings me to a controversial one, but a very important one: clickbait. My video went from a 5% click-through rate in the first hours to over 21% in the hours after I changed the title. All because of clickbait. Clickbait and clickbait. The worst case, you have a bad like to dislike ratio. You say sorry and you have some reputation damage to fix. However, the best case is that you get 1 million views and people still like your video, and you, like what happened for me, where my like to dislike ratio was exceptionally well for a clickbait video, 94 point something percent against a 95% channel average. Clickbait isn't the problem. Disappointing people is. So make sure that your video itself is always worth watching, that it leaves people with a positive feeling after they have watched it. And then you can always apply clickbait or some clickbait. And your dislike to like ratio will likely be okay. At least that has been my experience. But how do you actually implement clickbait in your titles? Well, one of the best ways is to just open up some channels who actually use clickbait, like these channels, and then copy them or get inspired. For example, by changing your vanilla title like CNN releases new footage of Diddy into Diddy panics after CNN releases new footage, like this channel did. And it worked. Now, to add to that, study titles in categories that win by emotion. Think celebrities, religion, politics, drama. I mean, alarming titles were the best title formats from this 1 of 10 study. Shout out to Richard and his team for doing this. Now here is where almost any YouTuber gets it wrong. Never use YouTube's free A/B test tool. They only show watch time share percentage. So you could be choosing the thumbnail with a 4% click-through rate, but with a 51% watch time share percentage. And thus delete the thumbnail with a 10% click-through rate or 21% like me, because it only had a 49 watch time share percentage. Either use a pay tool like me or track your click-through rates manually within your YouTube studio or copy paste it into Google Sheets whenever you change your thumbnail or title. Just do not use YouTube's free A/B test tool. And whenever you test things, first test big changes and then small ones. Big changes could look like this in your title, where small ones are more like this. And then always look at your click-through rate by traffic source. Therefore, click this little button, look at traffic source, and then you finally see what you need to see when picking your best title, which is the suggested features, which is this little sidebar. And the views and click-through rate that you get from showing up in this column get you much lower click-through rates, obviously. The click-through rate is often for me more than half or much more than half in comparison to browse features. I never knew that click-through rates would differ that much. And to give you some perspective, suggested videos usually have a 1 to 4% click-through rate for me, whereas browse features are between 5 to 9%. So never change your title if you see a low click-through rate. Instead, first take a deep breath and look at browse features, look at this breakdown that you see on screen right now, and then decide. Which brings me to 3 powerful but free tools that I use for almost every YouTube title. First, I use this free tool to check pixel length. Yes, YouTube doesn't cut your title based on word count. It cuts it based on how wide your characters are. They do this at roughly 600 pixels. Again, all the tools are free and are in my Google Sheet. Again, all the tools are free and in my Google Sheet below this video. Like this one, which is called Lose the Very. This free site helps me with shorter and better words to use in my title. It does what it says, right? Lose the very. You stop using, for instance, the words "this very smart investor" within your title. And instead, you say, "this brilliant investor destroyed BlackRock." And then also use thumbsup.tv to test your title and thumbnail combination. It's free also, and it looks like this. I basically use the site to preview my title thumbnail combination, especially to see how it looks on mobile and the suggested feed. Remember, you can have a brilliant title, but if your title thumbnail combination is bad, you still lose click-through rate. But this tool, or these two I should say, also lose your click-through rate, or can be, but don't have to. But this is usually the case for any SEO keywords, especially if you make your title longer because of it. Now I use these free SEO keyword tools, and all of them, including 73 other YouTube tools, are in the Google Sheet. Now before I talk about the magic YouTube SEO tricks, here are the title mindset shifts that can literally blow your mind. First, your title always shows, even if there's autoplay, but your thumbnail disappears, as you saw. More reason to spend more time on your titles. The next one, YouTube decides who sees your video based largely on your title. I mean, just check this tab in your YouTube studio and what you see under here, content suggesting your video. And you may see the crap understanding that YouTube has about your videos. Now, if you don't get the right people under this tab, then make an algorithm training video and or use longer titles with more keywords of your niche. Now, more on this insane method later in the video. Trust me, it's good. But first, you can A/B test your title before you even script the video. Let me say that again. You can A/B test your title before you even script the video. So you better know what to say in the intro and of course the rest of the video. So you better match your viewers' expectations. Simply said, you test your topic that you want to make and the titles for that topic in your YouTube community tab, or even using the Kahoot method that I sent earlier. Now don't skip this part, which is that short titles, meaning less than 41 characters, get a higher click-through rate, but show up less in search results. Because most search results are longer than 41 characters. They also give YouTube less information on your video and who it is for. For example, a title called "Never Do These Things" on YouTube can both be made for YouTube creators, like someone like me, but also for basically anyone who uses YouTube about general things that you should never do, like deleting your watch history. Now for large channels, this is less of a problem. So if you have a large channel, then you can still have shorter titles because YouTube already shows your videos to the right audience. But smaller channels, however, that still need to get discovered, may test longer titles. Which brings me to the algorithm training video, which is a video designed to train the algorithm about your niche. Even if this video doesn't perform well, it will help the algorithm better understand your future uploads and give them and previous uploads more views and give you search traffic meant for higher authority channels. Now more about my YouTube search and SEO method soon, but how do you make this algorithm training video? Well, just make one video where you say so many SEO keywords that you can't talk anymore, because SEO keywords are so important, especially within the video itself, the script you're recording. So research them, make sure you script out that video, even if you maybe normally just use bullet points. Script out that video, add so many keywords, because based on my findings, YouTube cares the most about your transcript, then the title, and then everything else when it comes to SEO. Also make this title much longer than you normally do. For example, 80 characters long instead of 45, and include the most important keywords within your YouTube title. Now, what are the most important? Depends. Sometimes they're the high volume keywords, even though they have high competition. Sometimes it can be the mid ones with a mid competition or low competition. Just don't care too much about the flow of the title or about the views, because this video is there for the future and past uploads. Which brings me to, you could have a click-through rate of 9% and get 1,000 views while believing you choose the right title because it has 9% click-through rate. Or you have a click-through rate of 3%, you don't choose that, and you end up with 100,000 views even though you had a click-through rate of 3%. Now why is this? Because your title can contain the right SEO keywords even though it has a low click-through rate, while it still explodes in impressions, of course, from YouTube search. So don't change your title if it has a low click-through rate and you see it is starting to get views from YouTube search. Then keep it that way and see what it does. But even more important, test everything. Don't rely on me. Don't believe all the things that I say, even if I show proof or data. Don't rely on Mr. Beast. Listen, absorb, but test everything and rely on data. That's my final advice. You don't have to do this, but this is the truth. Which brings me to the one you may have been waiting for. How do you actually get SEO traffic? Well, simply use vidIQ to find the best high volume but low competition keywords and include those in your title and the 12 SEO hotspots, and make sure your video script of course includes even more keywords. Now, want to know what those 12 SEO hotspots are? Then watch this video. It's honestly one of my best videos. See you there. Talk soon.